Hello again and welcome to the 140k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Sam Williams sending in some really cool pictures of his restored Cadian 13th Armoured. I really like these models. You've done an absolutely fantastic job of restoring them. The paint scheme alone is great, but the fact that you've printed and designed your own upgrade parts for the turrets and the sponsons and whatnot is really impressive. So thank you for sending these pictures in, Sam. I know that you designed them and did them yourself. I don't know if Sam is taking any orders or whatnot, but if you go onto the Mordian Glory Facebook page, you'll see the picture that Sam's posted. I'm sure if you leave a comment, he'll let you know if he's got the designs for sale or whatnot. But I just think these are really cool. So thank you for sending these pictures in, Sam. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. Or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. And again, that email address will be down in the description below. But without further ado, let's get on with today's video. So today, guys, I want to go through the list that I'm going to be taking to the London Grand Tournament this weekend. Now, for those of you that don't know, the LGT is one of the largest events that you can go to in the UK. There's actually going to be over 580 players taking part in the Warhammer 40k singles event this weekend. And not only is the Warhammer 40k singles, they've got some doubles, they've got some Age of Sigmar, they've even got Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. So it's a huge event. It's probably the largest one in the UK, and I'm fortunate enough that I was able to get a ticket, and I'm going to be going down there this weekend. Now, one thing I want to say straight away is that the list that I'm going to be going through is not super competitive. Okay, it is a fun list, and I would say it's a strong list. But this video is more of a fun video rather than a cutthroat competitive video. And the reason I wanted to take something a little bit different to the LGT was there was a number of reasons. Some of them practical, some of them just for fun. Now, the first thing I want to say is I've been running my Scions a lot recently, and they're really powerful, and I know that the Scions are good, but I'm also a little bit conscious that I've been doing a lot of Scion content recently, and I'm getting a little bit bored of it myself. So if I'm getting bored of it, then I'm sure you guys, don't want this channel to become a one-trick pony. So I want to start exploring things outside of Scions. We know they're good, that's great. We've been to grand tournaments with them, we've been to local tournaments with them. I've also played 30 games of Scions, consistently got a 66% win rate, so I wanted to run something a little bit different. Another consideration was, from a practicality point of view, is there's going to be really long tables at LGT, and what I mean by that is long rows of tables. And if I'm running a Scion that relies upon a lot of deep striking capabilities, then potentially I'm going to have to walk all the way around a big row of tables to then do my deep strike, to then walk all the way back. It's just going to be an absolute nightmare. So I didn't really want to take, that was a real practical consideration I wanted to take into account. And the other thing is I considered taking my pure infantry. It would have been great to take the Mordian 50th Rifles to the London Grand Tournament. However, there's a slight problem with the Mordian 50th Rifles, is that they take a huge amount of space. We're talking about a 300 model army for a 2,000 point game, and transporting those models in between tables at an event that big is a recipe for disaster. I am asking, I'm going to have multiple trades, and I'm going to have to leave large sections of my army unattended. I'm sure it'll be fine, but why take the risk? And at the same time, I could easily bump into someone and have hundreds of models just go all over the place. So that was something I wanted to consider as well. So what army I ended up settling on was my Armageddon Steel Legion, my 234th Mechanized Division. And I decided to take these guys because, one, they're actually a tournament army. I used them a lot during 8th edition. I'm very familiar with them. And I surprised a lot of people with the army. And I think it's still true in the current 9th edition meta, which is not a lot of people are expecting to face a really heavily armoured list. So I'm hoping that would be a bit of a factor. And we'll see in a proper tournament setting how the list translates over from one edition to the next. And the other thing I wanted to take into account was that it's a relatively low model count. It's 5 Lemurises and 5 Chimeras, and the rest of it is basically infantry in the Chimeras. So in terms of practicality, moving that around the gaming hall, very easy. I can have 10 models on a tray. My infantry can just stay in the carry case and only come out as and when they're needed. So that makes it really easy to transport around. Also makes it very simple to deploy and play with. I just got 10 models that I need to think about in terms of deployment. So there you go. So that's all sort of the real world considerations. But now let's get into the list itself, and I'll go through what my predictions for what I think will work and what I think won't work, and just it'll be interesting to see if those predictions come true. After we've been to the event, and I'll be doing the video, the report, the tournament report video. I'll be doing that next week. So without further ado, I've done a lot of introduction, my thoughts and feelings around why I decided to take this list, but now let's actually get into the nitty gritty of the 234th Armageddon Steel Legion. Now in my list there are 2 detachments. I've taken a battalion and I've taken a patrol. Now the battalion detachment I've taken as a custom regiment, and I've gone for the classic gunnery experts and spotter details. What that does is it gives me the ability to re-roll the random number of shots on my random shot weapons, and it also allows me to get an extra 6-inch range with my with all my heavy weapons, so basically like tank cannons and whatnot, but also sponsons, heavy bolters, that kind of thing. Now, leading this detachment is in the battalion. I've got 3 tank commanders. We're not messing around. I've slapped all 3 tank commanders down, and 2 of those tank commanders have Demarcher cannons, and 1 of them has a battle cannon. Now this is, I know ideally I'd be taking 3 Demarcher cannons. The reason for not doing so is to give me the ability to have a bit of long range fire support. I don't have any full pillared manticores in this list. It's like I said, it's not the most powerful, it's more of a themed list with a bit of bite. And if I don't take something with a bit more long range capability, then really my effective range is about 36 inches, which is okay, but I thought it would be a good idea to have 1 unit that can sit at the back and do some long range shelling. Now, normally in 9th edition boards, you don't get the opportunity to do a lot of long range shelling. However, I actually took the time to go through the rules pack for the event and go through specifically the terrain part of it. And the terrain at London Grand Tournament is fairly standard, but I would say that a lot of the boards are quite light and there are some clear fire lanes. And I want to be able to take advantage of that. And so I thought, you know what, just 1 tank commander who can sit at the back and who can throw some battle cannon shells downrange, that's going to be quite effective. And I've only put it on 1 unit. Now, so I've got my other 2 tank commanders, they've both got Demarcher cannons, and we know they're good units. Now, I have gone all out on these tank commanders. I've given them sponsons and hull weapons. So the hull weapon I've given just a heavy bolter on each one. That's just because it's, again, a bit of long-range firepower. I was considering heavy flamers, but again, the terrain favours Dakar, so I figured let's put some Dakar on there. And I have gone for plasma cannon sponsons on the side sponsons. Now, the reason for this is because it's a little bit cheaper, saves me about 10 points per tank, and again, it takes advantage of the random shot weapons that for gunnery experts. So which means I'm likely to get those 3 shots every single time for those plasma cannon sponsons. Again, it also allows me to have a bit of a range component. Again, that's kind of a theme that's in this list. I did consider swapping them over to multi-melters. I did consider triple heavy flamer on the Demolisher tanks, and I think if I was taking this list to an event which had heavier terrain, that would be definitely the way I was going to go. But in this case, I thought these Demolisher tanks are a good all-round unit. They've got the close-range Demolisher cannon for just crushing things, but they've also got firepower that they can do at longer distances as well. So, a bit more flexibility into my units. Also, quite frankly, that's already all painted. I've had to do 0 painting and prep work for this tournament, which is nice. It's a lot more relaxing. I normally have a huge amount of prep work I have to do for each event, so it's much easier just to have an army which I can just pick up and just use. So that's the 3 tank commanders. I've then got in the elite section, I've just got a lone platoon commander. I've just got the 1 because this army isn't going to rely strongly upon orders. I'm not going to be doing a lot of move and stuff like that. Really, we're looking at a bit of engage, and we're looking at a bit of retrieve victorious data, and then a third secondary will be whatever. Maybe I'll take banners instead of retrieve victorious data. But the point is that if this army can just, if I can just move a squad a turn, and I can use that to get 2 engage points a turn, I'll be happy with that. Likewise, pick up an few extras with the silent squads I've included as well. So I'm kind of happy with that. And then in terms of scoring primary, I only really aim for this list to sit on 2 objectives. I'm happy to get 40 primary again. That's kind of what I'm thinking I'm gonna end up picking up. So I've got a platoon commander to just do a cheeky order, cheeky move here and there as and when I need it. Now, I've then got the troop choices, and I've got 5 infantry squads. And I was considering, especially based on a video I did recently about, you shouldn't really take infantry squads anymore. You might as well take scion squads. But I was already, I didn't want to run another battalion to start getting Tempesta command squad, Tempesta prime, sorry. And again, this is where I was playing to the theme of the army. Traditionally, I have run 10-man squads and chimeras with this army. I wanted to continue that tradition. This is an updated version of my list, but it's not a complete overhaul of the traditional 234th Armageddon list that you've seen me run on battle reports and at other tournaments as well. So 10-man squads and chimeras, and also having 10 men, having 10 wounds on an objective. There will be times when that's important, when it doesn't really come down to durability of men or firepower of men. It just comes down to number of wounds I can chuck on an objective. Now, transporting those 5 infantry squads is 5 chimeras. Now, this is where I actually would say is the weakest part of the list, and where there's the most room for improvement. I'm running these chimeras with double heavy bolter and a heavy stubber, and quite frankly, guys, the reason I've done that is because that's what those chimeras are equipped with. I think under traditional circumstances, I would just run double heavy flamer. That would save me 5 points per chimera. That saves me 25 points, and that's in the platoon commander that I can just slap in the list straight away. I don't have double heavy flamer turrets, and we'll see how it goes. I think I'm going to come back from the tournament wishing that I had double heavy flamers on all my chimeras. It just provided me with a much better screening force, because that's really what the chimeras are going to do. They're going to be screening my tanks. We'll see. The interesting thing is, again, if we take into account the LGT terrain, depends on how light it might actually be, it may be that heavy bolters were just a happy accident. They were the right way to go. I suspect the terrain won't make that much of a difference. I suspect I've already factored that into my list with my tank loadouts. So we'll see. Okay, but that's where I think my first main prediction is going to be that I wished I'd taken double heavy flamers on those chimeras. We'll see what happens when I come back next week. Now, then we've got the second detachment, which is a patrol. Now, in this patrol, controversial, I've taken it as Cadian. And in this patrol, I have taken Pask, and I have taken another Lehman Russ. And for my troop choice for the patrol, I've taken 2 squads of Scions. Now, this part of the list is what I would call the upgraded part, the tweaking from when I've run this list in the past. You see, previously I used to run this whole thing in a single detachment, and I used to, when I ran out of tank commanders, just take 2 basic Lehman Russ executioners and then have like Yarrick stood next to them because it was fluffy, because it's Armageddon, and have Yarrick in the list, and have Yarrick stood next to them, giving them reroll 1s, and that was kind of how I did it. But I have had games recently when I've just been thinking, you know what, why am I taking a 105 point Yarrick to give 2 vehicles reroll 1s to hit? Surely there must be a better way of doing this. So I thought, you know what, Cadian. If I go Cadian, what it lets me do is get an extra super tank commander in the list in the form of Pask. Yeah, sure, he's probably going to die every turn, at first turn every game. But he is still a 4th tank commander, which is important. And then you've also got, and then the other levers I've got with him is an execution as well. Pask can do 2 orders, so Pask can order both of these tanks to either reroll 1 to hit if they move, doing what Yarrick would do, or he can do the Cadian tank order, pound them into dust. Because these are executioners, they've got a 36-inch range. Because these are 9th edition boards, 36-inch range is probably enough for the majority of it. I mean, you want 1 unit like the battle cannon tank man who can go a bit further, but 36 range is probably more than enough for a lot of the firepower. And so I've got that there's a good chance that these 2, how I plan to use these 2 tanks is pair them up together, put them on a fire lane, and have them cover that fire lane. And they're going to stay still, so they're going to be cages, so they're going to inbuilt get reroll 1s to hit. and then Pask is going to tell them to reroll the random number of shots thanks to pound them into dust. So I'll basically be getting the same effect as I would on my other tanks in my other detachment. And the best bit is that if there's like a particularly, a unit that needs a bit of concentrated fire, then I can shoot Pask first. He hits on 2s anyway, so 2s rolling 1s, that's fantastic. He can do some damage, he can chip a wound off or kill a model from the unit that I'm firing at, and then I can spend 2 CP for overlapping fields of fire. And that will allow me to put the other executioner on a +1 to hit, which will allow me to get access to essentially a 5th tank commander, which is really, really nice. So this is definitely where the improvement lies. Upon my previous iteration running this list, we have, instead of having 3 tank commanders and 2 normal Leman Russes, we're essentially running 5 tank commanders, which is nice. Now, if I was to take this list a step further, and I have certainly thought about doing this, then I would consider adding in another patrol and making it Vestroyan and taking another Leman Russ in there and using Firstborn Pride that Leman Russ, and that would actually allow me to essentially get up to 6 tank commanders, which I think is really, really potent. Really, there's definitely some food for thought there on that working. But anyway, so that's not what I've taken this time. So that's my two patrols. I've got 2 Scion squads in there. They are really simply there to either let me get Rod or to help me get some engage points each turn. I am seriously considering with this list to not Rod and to actually, from all of my secondaries, and to sit on banners and just get 10 to 12 points on banners, because what I found with privatized data is these days people are really keyed up for it and they just screen you out from 1 table quarter and you only ever end up getting 8 points for it. And what I want to do is to get 10 points. Now, if I'm able to sit on 2 banners the whole game, I'm able to get 10 points. That's actually a better secondary, and then I can use these Scion squads to help me get engage, and help me get an extra couple of points on engage turn 2, turn 3, which should allow me to comfortably get 10 points for engage on all fronts as well. So that's what those 2 Scion squads are there for. So I would definitely say that the first detachment, the battalion, is the traditional part of the list, and the second detachment, the patrol, is the new and improved. This is version 2.0 of this list. Now I suspect, like I said, that there's going to be a version 3.0 of this list, and that version is going to have double heavy flamer chimeras on all the chimeras, and we're also probably going to see triple heavy flamer on all the Leman Russes. Now that might sound pretty eccentric, and maybe that's leaning too far into it, but triple heavy flamer will allow me to essentially not worry about getting tagged in combat. Not worry about it in the slightest. It's something that I've learned recently from a few games. I've been using a lot of heavy flamers in vehicles, and numerous times my opponents have tried to tag a vehicle and I've just gone triple heavy flamer. And if that hasn't killed what I've got into what's charged me, then I just stay in combat and I triple heavy flame them again. And it is actually super potent. I've kind of gone off heavy bolters this edition, and I'm really starting to eye up heavy flamers. I think this edition is very much the edition of melter guns over plasma and flamers over heavy bolters. But we'll see. I should have said in my patrol attachment, Pask and his other friend, the other executioner, they're running plasma sponsors and heavy bolters as well. So this is very much a version 1.5, version 2.0 of this list. We'll see how it goes. First tournament I'm going to be taking Steel Legion 2. I'm throwing them at the deep end, but there is potential that the LGT could be quite a fun event, because there's going to be 580 players there, and so there's a likelihood that I'm going to be run into a lot of just nice-ish, normal-ish lists. However, something to be aware of is that 10% of players going to LGT are using Drukhari. I mean, that's insane. Over 50 players using Dark Elder. As a long-time tournament goer, Dark Elder used to, you'd see them around, and even when they were at their most powerful, you'd see them around, but they weren't spammed. They are now so meta dominant that you are guaranteed to face them. And they've gone from a niche faction to they are just a mainstream normal faction now. Admech's got 50 odd players there as well. Necrons has got 50 odd players. So I'm going to be facing a lot of 9th edition, but it's going to be interesting. Now, one last thing I want to say. As part of the LGT process, you are asked to list check a couple of the lists from people in your faction. So I checked a couple of Imperial Guard lists, and there's only 10 Guard players going, but my list is fairly fluffy, but it's got some teeth. But the other 2 players that I checked, they're making me think that the Guard has gone to this event and with the right mindset. Because one of the lists that I checked was a really nice Vostroyan army. It had teeth, it had tank commanders and stuff, but it wasn't taking the piss. You know, a couple of Bulgarian units, but there was also just some obvious seasoning. It's this guy's creation. It's not a net list. And then the other list that I came across, which personally I think is just a fantastic list, was basically an all Catachan, all Flamer, and all Melter all the way list. The guy had like 60 infantry with Flamers, in Chimeras with Flamers, and then he had like no tank commanders, but he did have Iron Hand Strachan, and he did have, I think, 5 or 6 Hellhounds and Devil Dogs with Flamers and Multi-Melters and whatnot. That guy is doing it right. That guy, all Flamer, all Catachan list, absolutely beautiful, brave bastard of a list. I absolutely love it. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Let me know if you're going to LGT. If you are, keep an eye out for me. I'm going to, on the first day, on the Saturday, I will be wearing a purple club shirt. So keep an eye out. So you should see a few of us around with the purple club shirt on. Although there is 500 people, so I might get lost in the crowd. On the second day, I will be wearing my Mordian Glory t-shirt as well, so you should be able to find me in the crowd. Please feel free to come up to me and say hello and all that kind of stuff. More than happy to get a drink and have a chat about all things Guard and 40k and all that kind of stuff. Don't be shy, come and say hello. I've met some absolutely fantastic people through the channel at events who have come up and said hello to me, so just come and say hi, and yeah, there we go. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and of course I'll see you guys next time.